Manchester United men are not performing that well, but if you guys want to watch a Manchester United team that are in flying form right now, then I really encourage you to watch Manchester United women. Now, coming off the back of a huge FA Cup win, actually the men and the women's team did the double. Not many clubs have done that in England, but they both did the double of the FA Cup in the same season. And then coming off the back of that and a summer transfer window, Manchester United women came into the WSL season rejuvenated, if you want to say that. They brought in a number 9 who was second in the goal scoring tally the season before that in Elizabeth Turland. They brought Melvie Mallard in on a permanent as well. Grace Clinton returned from loan. They brought in some resurgences in the back line and essentially gave Mark Skinner a 1-year option that they picked up in his contract, kind of smoothing out the road for Manchester United women. And it's not been the most easiest of seasons, I'm not going to lie, but big victories in the season, and especially a huge one over Manchester City in the Manchester Derby a couple of months ago. I think the possibilities are endless for Manchester United women, so we're going to talk about that. If you have not been following the women's team, well, here's your big roundup as we reach the halfway mark of the season now. Starting with the WSL, Manchester United sits second in the league. Yes, second in the league. I don't think Manchester United will go on to win the title, I'm being very honest, because Chelsea are unbeatable in every possible concept. Now, I'm saying that when Manchester United actually beat Chelsea in the FA Cup semi-final last season, but in the league so far, they are unbeaten. They've drawn 1 and won 12 in comparison to Manchester United, who have won 9, drawn 3 and only lost 1. In the calendar year of 2025, Manchester United as well are in flying form. But specifically talking about the league, it's important that United managed to finish in the top 3. Just for some context for any of you who maybe don't follow women's football on a regular basis, the winner of the league in the WSL will automatically qualify for the group stages of the Women's Champions League. If you finish second, you enter a knockout stage to qualify, and if you finish third, you enter a kind of knockout stage before the knockout stage. So you'll have to play extra games in comparison to finishing in second. Now, Manchester United, the season before that, managed to finish in second 2 seasons ago. Finished in second place, and they lost to PSG in the knockout stage qualifiers of the UEFA Champions League. Hopefully, they will be able to qualify in second from the second place position in the WSL, and hopefully get a more favourable draw in the UEFA Champions League, so that for the first time ever, Manchester United could participate in a Champions League. And you lot are probably thinking, how? Manchester United's heritage in the Champions League. Not in women's football. Manchester United only returned in 2018. Yes, 2018, about 7 years ago, in women's football, after the Glazers got rid of them when they took over Manchester United back in 2005. And as a result, they've never qualified for the Champions League since returning in 2018. Let's talk about some individual players. I think the first one I have to start with is Tullis Joyce. Listen, Fallon Tullis Joyce came in with probably one of the biggest tasks, I think, as a Manchester United player this season, is replacing Mary Earps. Mary Earps is a phenomenal player, and not only that, if you do not follow football in England, she is the media darling. The British media love Mary Earps, and rightfully so, because she was part of the Lionesses' historic win in the Euros. But Tullis Joyce had some big shoes to fill, both in the public eye and behind the scenes, because we all know Mary Earps had a huge influence on the dressing room and was a huge character as well in the dressing room and a fan favourite. But Tullis Joyce, for me, is the best goalkeeper in women's football, and that's not even me being biased right now. Firstly, her stature. She's very tall in comparison to other goalkeepers that Manchester United have had. I think she's just sitting at 6 foot, and that is quite tall for a women's goalkeeper. Her long arms as well it causes a disruption in the net for opponents. Let's put it like that. She has phenomenal shot stopping ability. She can play out from the back as well. And my favourite thing about Tullis Joyce is her ability to command the box, especially from set pieces. Manchester United have conceded, I think, the lowest number of goals in the league so far, and they've had a record number of clean sheets thus far. At this point of the season, they've never had this number of clean sheets, and that's all thanks to Tullis Joyce. And of course, I have to commend her front line as well. Maya Letitia with the captain's armband this season and playing exactly like a captain should. Honourable mention as well goes to Ella Toone, who started the season really shaky due to things in her personal life after losing her father, but she's found some form off the back of that hat-trick in the Manchester Derby. You know I had to mention that. And I'm happy to see Elizabeth Turland as well, really finding her form for Manchester United in front of goal. The first couple of months I felt like she was doing a graveyard shift for Manchester United. they weren't really finding her in front of the net or making runs in behind. They weren't really able to find her. But now she's finding some fluidity with the link-ups with Ella Toone, with Grace Clinton, with Melvin Mallard. If JC is playing with JC, as well as Celine Bizet, she's managed to find that relationship with those players. And those relationships can only really be formed on the pitch. Now, you can say what you want about Mark Skinner. You can have your opinions about Mark Skinner. But I think it's essential to kind of discuss how Manchester United have improved from last season. And the biggest improvement for me is the number of goals that they're conceding. They might not be in prolific goal scoring form. They are getting those stat padding numbers, if you want to say that, in the FA Cup, in the Conti Cup as well. They were able to do that. But in the WSL, I think that is your bread and butter. And we are seeing clear signs of improvements on the pitch. And you know what? It makes me feel even better, given what Jim Ratcliffe said publicly about the women's team. You know, I feel like other players have shared that same sentiment. You had Katie Zellum coming out after leaving Manchester United, kind of sharing how she felt like the women's team were an afterthought. And you can have your opinions about which one is the most important. Is it the men's, the women's, the academy, etc.? But I think no owner in their right mind should ever come out and publicly put down the women's team. Whether you are an owner of a championship team, whether you are the owner of a step 5, step 6 team, no owner should do that, let alone the owner or the co-owner of Manchester United. So to come out publicly and say that the women's team is an afterthought, I felt like that was really disappointing. And I also feel like Jim Ratcliffe has shown on multiple times that he doesn't care about the team, because he also missed out on the historic FA Cup final win. Now, it would have been I think it would have been amazing to have Jim Ratcliffe there, because it was just, you know, the first couple of months of INEOS ownership at Manchester United, and it would have made a statement to show that you stand side by side with the women's team. Instead, on that same day, Manchester United men were playing at Old Trafford against Arsenal. They ended up losing, but they were hosting Keir Starmer. At the time, he was the leader of the opposition, the leader of the Labour Party. If you don't follow UK politics or you're not from the UK, he was the leader of the UK Labour Party, who are now in office. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is because it was essential, I guess, for Jim Ratcliffe to form that relationship with Keir Starmer when he is now targeting a regeneration project led by the government in collaboration with Manchester United to build the stadium and also regenerate the area around the stadium. Coming into the season, I'm not going to lie, I didn't know what to expect for the women's team, especially off the back of the FA Cup final, especially off the back of Mark Skinner getting a 1-year extended contract. I still think that there is some uncertainty around his future. You look at players that are yet to sign long-term deals. Grace Clinton has had her 1-year option extended. I think she's the hottest property right now in English football. If she's available as a free agent next season, I think a lot of teams will be all over that, not just in the WSL, but also around Europe. And just quickly on the WSL, I feel like the gap between Chelsea and every other team is unfathomable, because Chelsea invest in their women's team. You see them multiple times breaking records for transfer fees, bringing in the best of the best. They lost one of the best managers in women's football, and they brought in probably another one of the best managers in women's football. They are in a rebuilding process in their team, but it was evident from before Emma Hayes left that they were going to bring in new players, and they did that. They just brought in Naomi Girma as well, one of the best defenders in world football, for a record fee, the first ever $1 million transfer fee in women's football. They also, not so long ago, brought in Myra Ramirez, who at the time was one of the most expensive players as well. So Chelsea are evidently investing in their team, and I really do think the gap between Chelsea and all the other teams, Manchester City, Man United, Arsenal, if you look at Spurs and Brighton, who are also on the come up, I think that gap is going to get bigger and bigger unless teams like Man United, unless teams like Manchester City start investing in their players and their teams the same way that Chelsea are doing that right now. I think because of what Chelsea have in terms of heritage in the women's football industry, you know, they've won multiple WSLs in a row, got to multiple Champions League finals, still yet to kind of get their hands on that silverware under Emma Hayes, but they might be able to do it under Bompasta. Now, if Chelsea continue to go at that level in terms of investment, bringing in the best of the best, Manchester United have to compete. And unfortunately, at the moment, teams like City, Arsenal, Man United do not have much to compete with, or much to offer when they're competing against the likes of Chelsea. Now, what would I like in the summer summer, I would like for a new manager to come in, one that has a clear identity. I feel like when I watch Manchester United, unfortunately, despite the fact they're getting the results, I don't see the identity on the pitch. I feel like Ona Battier, her absence over the last couple of seasons is evident because Man United are struggling to build up in the way that they used to be able to. You know, for your right back to have the most assists in the league, that's unheard of right now in women's football. So losing her was a big thing. But Manchester United have that creativity of Ella Toone, Grace Clinton, even Hinata Miyazawa as well. And then they've got that, you know, flair, JC, Bizet, Mallard, etc. And then you just got your out-and-out number 9 in Elizabeth Turland. I'd like to have a manager that has a distinctive style of play that is identifiable on the pitch, that can get the best out of everyone consistently and make Manchester United compete, because it's all fun and games for Manchester United to just be in and around the top 3 and the top 4 in the WSL, but Manchester United in the coming years need to win a WSL title, and I know that that is the kind of objectives of the owners. They kind of stated it's called Project 1 for the women's team, and I can't remember, I think it's Project 21 for the men's team. I don't know, I'm just hearing blueprint, project, a lot of buzzwords. Forget the buzzwords. Let's put your money where your mouth is and take Manchester United to the WSL. That is aimed at INEOS and the ownership. Now, in terms of the season, I'll be real, guys. Manchester United have just had another easy draw in the FA Cup. I think the FA Cup is set up for the semi-finals to be the most entertaining fixtures. You still got City, Arsenal, Chelsea and Man United in it. So it's definitely set up for one of those or multiple of those teams to go through to the semis. Now, Manchester United, for me, definitely have a path back to the FA Cup. But I also think, like I said, the WSL is your bread and butter. Man United need to compete in the WSL to get in the top 3 and qualify. If they can finish second place this season, it would be perfect to get to that knockout stage of the qualifiers of the UEFA Women's Champions League, and then hopefully go on to the group stages. Let me know your thoughts down below of what you think Manchester United's season has been so far like for the women's team. Be sure to hit the like button and please do subscribe if you are new here.